calibrate anyway, so we're probably about live right about now. And welcome to my LinkedIn Live and all my other channels too. Today, David Mumford, and thank you for joining me. I'm excited to hear all about your family. I know that that's your pride and joy, right?
It is, yeah.
And we're going to talk about a couple of other things too, but let's dive right into that because I love the picture that you've got on your profile. So
Yeah.
who is everybody? What's everyone's personality? I don't know. That might take you a while because you got a lot of
Basically, I'm gonna pull up my LinkedIn profile picture here so I can just so I can have it in front of me here.
Go off of the roll call list.
Basically, everybody that's on that picture, oh gosh, in the last in the last 10 years has played a vital role in my life more than they have growing up, and part of my story. And if we can go into this if you want to, or I know we talked about vulnerability and just being vulnerable. How everybody plays a part in this in my life is in 2005. I went off the deep end, like I like to say, and I moved in with a female I had never intended to marry. I had never intended anything more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I did that is I had turned 25. She offered me the opportunity to move in with her because I didn't want to move back home. So I moved in with her. And once my dad found out that I was doing that, he and I grew up in a very strong Christian home, like very strong Christian
home. Where's home for you?
My home is Cleveland, Tennessee. We've been here since '92, so this is home. Other than 2 years, I lived in Atlanta for school. But
you had moved in with a person that wasn't really you weren't invested in a future or your future at that point. You just kind of were in a desperate state. It sounds like.
Yeah, it was. That's a great way. That's a great way of putting it. It was a desperate state, and when my dad found out, they were like, okay. Well, my dad was like, I do not approve of this. This isn't right. I was like, well, I'm 25. I can do what I want to do, and you're not going to stop.
That's stubborn. Like, I can do anything. You can't tell me what I
Yep.
I can't do, Mom, Dad.
Yep, exactly. So when I did that, I literally I stopped talking to my family for 5 years. I lived in the same town. I did not see my parents I saw them like at Christmas, but I did not see my parents like for 5 years basically, and stopped going to church, now that I look back on it and I think about it, I was an alcoholic for 5 years. And because when I was not at work, I was at home drinking. Yeah. Or if we go out, we'd go.
Not drinking.
Yeah. If we go out to restaurants here in town, because I was drinking out in public. I didn't really care. I mean, I was just doing whatever I wanted to do, and got involved in pornography, got involved in the club scene, got involved in literally everything that I did not grow up doing. I literally went off and did it because that was
you weren't allowed to do, so you were going to get as much of it as you could. Yeah.
Yeah. And did that, lived that life.
Whether it was good for you or not, or whether it felt good or not, gosh, you just were probably in it.
I was in it. I was in it. And then 2010, after a party at our house, she asked me to move out, and I had to call my parents in a very vulnerable state and say, "Hey, I need to move back home." And thank goodness my parents said yes. no questions asked. We'll help you. We'll come. My dad was like, I'll come help you tomorrow. Move out, and he came and helped me move out in, I think it was like the summer of 2010, and I moved back home and lived at home. Moving back in with my parents at age 30, and lived with them for 6 years, and that was some of the, like the first couple, about the first 3 years were probably the hardest because I had to live back under my parents'
Yeah,
house and had to live under their rules and what they said and all and everything. But it was probably some of the, I'd say those 6 years I lived at home until I got married in 2016 were probably some of the best 6 years of my life of learning everything, that relearning my whole life, relearning everything because I didn't. I That's where I really learned who I was and learned what I'm made of, and learned that I'm just as capable as anybody else.
that's so true. I'm glad that you were able to relearn that. It's difficult whenever we have to go astray to be able to figure out like what it is that is actually meaningful in life. And
Mhm.
sometimes people don't figure it out, and that's a really tragic thing, but those of us that are lucky are able to heal from our internal battle with ourselves and
Right.
return to something that is actually substantive and meaningful in life. And that's beautiful. It sounds like you definitely, had a whirlwind for a while there, but you're settled in a much better place, it sounds like. So that's
It I am. And the picture, just kind of the picture, everybody in the picture, I have learned how important they are in my life, and how they've all played um somewhat of a role in my life, that I couldn't be here tonight. I wouldn't be on this show tonight if it wasn't for them. If it wasn't something for them and what they've meant to me in my life here in the last really 10 years, what I've relearned about everything. So,
I really admire that. You want to give me a speed round of all of the names?
yep, I will do it. Okay. On the back row, Wells is me. And then in the middle is my dad, Keith. And then on beside him is PJ, my brother-in-law. He's the one that actually, um, he's a professional photographer, so this is
Photos.
his.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he took the photo of this, and then in front of me in the black shirt is Anna, my wife, and we can talk about our relationship because that's talking about vulnerability and hope. That's we could talk about that for all night. And then you have my mom, Pam, and then beside her you have Sarah, my niece, and then my sister, Leah, and then you have Grayson, my nephew, and then the dog in front. That is that's Stella. That is our rescue German Shepherd mix that has taught me more about myself. And we've had her since we rescued her when she was, I think, 16 weeks. And if people have never learned anything from an animal, that dog has taught me patience. That
Mhm.
dog has taught me everything I've been trying to learn my whole life. She has taught me more than like unconditional love. Oh my gosh, that dog
Oh,
is.
sure. Isn't that amazing? We've got our dog back home, and we got her whenever I was older. So I agree. Like I learned later in life certain lessons from having her from being a puppy all the way to being older, and it's amazing. I wouldn't say I'm like an animal person or that I'm like a dog person or cat person, but certain animals really just find a way to like nuzzle up in your heart, and
Oh my
I
gosh, yes.
completely agree. And she was a pain to train, and she can be a pain to get still sometimes, but that's the kind of thing that like it teaches you the lesson,
Yeah, Yeah, and we've got our house broken now, but there's still times where I'm like, "Oh my gosh, dog, please." But I tell people she had to be a human in her other life, or she'll look at us when we tell her to do something, and if she doesn't wanna do it, she'll look at us like, "There's no way I'm gonna do that." Or or if we ask her to do something, she'll come and, like, stomp her feet and pout to us. I'm like,
I once walked in the room and my dog was sitting in a chair at the table.
"Oh, yeah."
Like sitting like ready to have a cup of tea or something. We were like, excuse me, who do you think you are? Like
Exactly.
moments like that. And it's just like, yeah, like I don't know if you are aware of how amazingly hilarious you're being right now, but it's not lost on me. Just know
Yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And, like, we'll tell her to do stuff. Well, like, if we're upstairs or if we need her to go do something, we're like, "Go get your rope," or "Go get your ball." She will literally run downstairs, get that toy, and come right back upstairs, and we're like, how do you know that? How do you understand? How do you understand that?" And this really taught me patience, because 'cause I've
Mhm.
never been a patient person, but having her, she's definitely taught me.
Dogs were sent from Saturn to keep us on Earth in line, and they haven't done a very good job. We're still freaking crazy.
Yeah, I understand. I agree with that. She has
Mm-hmm.
definitely taught me a lot of stuff about myself.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah, kind of. Let's move into the conversation about hope a little bit more,
Okay.
because then I would love to hear about what that means to you. You'd asked like, I had said that it's come up as a theme today, and I feel like
Mhm,
it really has. And it's amazing how vulnerability and hope kind of are related to each other. At least I've found. It's like
yeah.
moments that I've been the most vulnerable are the moments that I have to search for hope or I go looking for hope. And every time I
Mm,
go looking for hope, I always find it. You know, it's something that um can be really difficult, and in this time that we're living in, like it can feel very hard to hold on to, you know. I mean,
mhm,
on all the way across the board, I mean, it's just civil unrest and just basic things in life being red flags and dangerous now because of the coronavirus. Everyone sort of having to live with the survivalist mentality and not being able to feel like we can just spark up conversation with strangers because you don't know where they've been,
mhm,
what they
yeah,
do, or you don't want to get too close, you don't want to upset their boundaries. And it's just like a whole thing that can make the simple things in life, which are the things that are the most enjoyable and give us that feeling of hope, when those things disappear, how does hope remain? And it's interesting because a lot of those things just over the past few days have been triggered with both like on an international or like global level,
mhm,
cases getting worse with the stuff in the US and our like domestic terrorism basically. And then also just like in my life, like I've seen different ways that my you know family has been vulnerable. My little sister is sick right now, so we were scared it might be coronavirus. She's negative, so luckily that felt really good to have that sense of like hope restored, you know. But
right.
these were things I was dealing with today, you know, and we got reprieve today. But I find it interesting every time I am feeling that way. If I can look within myself long enough to just think, what do I need right now? And
Mm,
sometimes it's just like to read a book or to go for a walk, or you know, if I follow what I need, messages always appear, you know. And
yep,
it can be something that's more like scriptural, and it could be things that are just like just genuine general reminders. And like I was reading this book and I decided that was what I needed. I just needed to sit in my bed and read. And I I picked up the book, and the exact paragraph I had left off at. I'll just read the sentence in the end that really stuck with me. And it was that artists during troubled periods throughout history act as a kind of beacon, a ping from hidden depths, reminding those who searched for it that all evidence to the contrary, civilization had not yet perished. If there is art, there is hope. Man is not a monster because he yearns for truth and is capable of producing great beauty. And I just love that. I mean, I
Yeah.
really love that quote. And it's interesting because at the very same time as that, we got a couple of people. It's like we've got Bill saying hello from the Berg. So hello. But it was interesting because I also believe in divine timing and the divinity in that. And I was reading that, and as soon as I had been reading that, my boyfriend, who I had asked, like, will you send me something nice that's gonna make me feel good, you know? He had written a little poem or of some sorts, and he had sent me at the same time I had read that about hope, that there was hope. He had said this: hope is not the sweet peach that is perched on the tree. Hope is not the seed that is swallowed by the hungry bird passing by. Hope is not the sun that glitters on the bird's beak or the wind that lifts its wings. Hope is not the seed which passes through the bird and falls in the meadow to bloom anew. Hope is the silent, invisible, and ever-present energy that binds all life together.
Wow.
Right? And then I read something like that, and I'm like, what a guy, you know? But
Wow.
also just reading that message is such a powerful reminder of that truth. It's in a time that we have been isolated and it's hard to see hope. It's here and it's not tangible. It's something that you can't pin down, yet it's the thing that binds us all.
Yeah.
And I think that was simply beautiful.
Yeah, that's very beautiful.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, yes, Bill wrote a keeper. I agree. Definitely a great guy. And yeah, so you can tell probably that in my moments of vulnerability and in his moments of vulnerability, we are able to like lean on each other and serve as those reminders that hope is alive and that hope does exist. I would love to hear about how life has done that, or maybe how you have examples that you maybe have done that with her or for her as well.
I really can't go into a whole lot, but we're kind of going through something right now that when you said hope, and then the things that kind of happened that kind of happened today was kind of like that was almost I was having a little bit of a rough time, and then you sent that, and it kind of made it kind of brought like a peace that says it's all good, just hope, just hope, just keep hoping, and that's kind of what I need. And I was looking up, I looked up an acronym sitting here while you were talking, and I was like, okay, there's got to be an acronym for hope. What?
Oh, definitely.
And then the one I found that kind of just stood out to me that says hope, hold on, pain ends.
Oh.
And I was like, that's what we need to hear. That's what we need to know right now. I mean, everything we're going through, this whole pandemic, this whole all the politics stuff. Just hold on. It's going to end. It may not be tomorrow. It may not be this year, but the pain's going to end. It's going to be okay. We're going to be at peace. And I guess for my on a personal note, what hope means to me is, and how it goes with with even my wife, and how I can do it in our marriage is before we got married, I I cheated on her a couple times, and
Mm,
the very last time I did, she said, "Okay, this is the last straw. If you do not get help, if you do not go to counseling,
mm,
then we're through." And I was like, that gave me the, I guess, the hope that says, okay, I've got to do this. It's not for her. It's not
mm.
for my parents. It's not for my sister, my brother-in-law, my niece and nephew. It's for myself.
Yeah.
Every day I wake up, I'm like, okay, I hope that it's not like people. I've heard people say, "Oh, I hope today's going to be a good day." No, today's going to be a good day. There is no hope in it. There's
Mhm.
no hope of, is it gonna be a good day. I heard someone, I was on the phone with somebody the other day, and they were like, I think I was on the phone, I don't think I saw them in person, but they're like, they said, "It's not a good day, it's a God day." And it
Mhm.
is. We wouldn't be here without the hope in Him. We wouldn't be here without the hope of, are we gonna make it through the day? Yeah, we're gonna make it through the day. And exactly, Bill.
Yeah, you have
You have to have faith to persevere. And that
hard to keep. That was what Damani is, my partner's name, and that's what we were talking about last night. And I was struggling. We were both struggling, like it was hard to feel like, oh, I've got faith right now that it's all gonna be okay, because it didn't feel like it. Like it felt too hard to hold on to faith.
it
Um,
is.
we have to speak what we want, and I think that that's true.
That's very true.
And that was what I realized, was that there are certain things we have to do for ourselves for
Mhm.
alone, but there are certain things we need to lean on each other for too.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And knowing that balance is so important, and being able to, and it's not something that stays as a knowing. I think it's revisiting and reflecting on that balance, and like,
Oh yeah.
and it's a constant thing. I find this with myself, like wanting others to heal me or wanting to heal others, and it doesn't work, and I found any of those moments that I've tried to make it seem like I need somebody else to fix what I'm feeling inside, or I need to fix what that person's feeling. I reflect on what you've kind of touched on, and then I realize, like, there's something within myself that I need to turn inward and pour love into and pour peace into. And whenever I do that, I always am able to find that faith again, because it really made me realize, like, I do believe the other thing you had said is true too, that like it's not about waking up and thinking, oh, I hope today is going to be a good day. Today is going to be a day, whether you pay attention to it or not.
Yeah.
And it is a gift from God. It really is.
Yep.
But what that means is that even if you like broke it down into a science problem, like, it's neutral. It's what you put into it that decides what comes out of it. Like, the day itself is the neutral thing,
Mhm.
but your variable of what energy you're going to bring to it is going to change everything. And
Exactly.
I've got someone on Instagram saying you have to manifest, and I think that that's true too.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true.
You
That's very
speak,
true.
we speak what we want. That is manifestation. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. Exactly right. I love it. So on the note of vulnerability, I appreciate you being honest and saying that you and your wife have been going through a difficult time, and also for being honest and just owning up to your actions of infidelity, and
Yeah.
saying, like, just as it is, not dancing around that, because well, you didn't really owe that to me to say that necessarily,
Right.
but you owe it to yourself to just own that truth. And again, like, I'm glad that you have sought some assistance, and there's no shame in that by any means. It's if it's what's going to help. Looks like we've got a story for Phil. My grandpa
Yes.
always told me at a young age, yesterday is the past, tomorrow is the future, but each day is the present the good Lord gave us. That's so true.
Yeah. That's very true.
And even when
I've heard
people
that.
say, like, oh, we got to take it day by day, I always remind myself and the other person, we got to take it moment by moment, because the present is always here, and it happens moment by moment.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we don't think too far ahead or try to project in the future or hold on to a past that's gone, we can find that present moment.
I've
Always.
even said to myself, second by second. There, it's not even a moment.
Literally.
It's like,
Like,
okay,
fast
I can make it
is
this 1 second. I can make it this 1 minute. If I can make it just one more second, then it's going to be good. Because there's days, oh my gosh, there's days where I've literally said, okay, I hope this day ends soon.
And that's not the kind of hope we're trying to hold on to.
No, that is not the hope I'm trying to hold on to.
That too, though. I think we all have had moments and seconds and days that have felt like that, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Shake it off. Just shake it off. Interesting. Yeah, so I'm thinking, do you have any questions right off? I'm an open book.
No. I wish there was can you? You can't see it. Shoot. I have. I don't think. I think there's gonna be a glare, but I've always wanted a tattoo. I can. If people want to see it, message me on LinkedIn, and I'll send them a picture of it. I've always wanted a tattoo, and I've always liked it because I think some tattoos really can share a story or can really help people find
Yeah.
out who you are. And last year I turned 40, and for my 40th birthday, I got my first tattoo, which I don't. People said, "Oh, it's gonna hurt." No, it didn't. Like I almost fell asleep getting a tattoo. It felt.
I felt the same way. It's kind of it's meditative in a way. You can go into a mental space and just kind of check out, like.
And I must have, but I got one on my right shoulder, my right shoulder. That's a cross, and in the middle it's oh goodness, hold on, me want to look at it again so I get it right. It has the letter G and then greater sign, and then like the up and down, and it's God is greater than your highs and lows. And there's days where I'm having a bad day, and I'll look at it, or I'll feel like I'm like, okay, yeah, that's there. Yeah, God is greater than your highs and lows. God's greater than anything you're going through. God's greater than anything that we may put ourselves through. We have the hope in Him that He'll get us through this, and it's really helped me. It's really helped me be more vulnerable. Once I got that, it made me think I can be vulnerable, and if people don't like it, if people don't like my authentic self, then I'm sorry. That's not that's on you.
Amen. And I'm not even sorry for it. It's just that it's on them. And there's no need to hate on them or shame them and make them feel bad. It's just that you can recognize from that higher place that they must be going through some kind of pain if they have to have some kind of hell-bent opinion on you and what that has to do with you and your life. Because those of us who are able to be the most gracious, and it's not that the person who made that assumption about you is not capable of that. They actually are. That's what I'm about to get to. It's that those of us who can find that graciousness don't make those judgments about people. And the reason why is because often we have been in a place of negative energy that we understand that if you're making those kinds of judgments, it has so much to do with you. Then nothing is not. That is none of my business what you think of me. Like, that is only your business. Like, literally, and it's the truth. I love that, and it makes me think of I always see. Like I had said, I believe in divine timing, and I had made a video because I wanted to share that quote that I had shared with you that I'd read in the book about hope. And I was sitting there and I had looked up at one of my screen print art pieces that I have right above my bed, and it's The Great I Am. And I'll tag you in the video on LinkedIn so that you can get the visuals, because it's all visuals. But I just thought it had tied with that so beautifully, because the great I am is the Lord, first of all. But also I have a practice of tying religion and spirituality and science together, because we all fight with each other about what's right, but in my eyes they are genuinely exactly the same thing. I see I see God in science anytime I learn something new, and I see there's numerology in any biblical text, and there's religions all across the world, for the most part, preach basically the same things. And I find that that's a beautiful thing. Oh, is it a song?
I believe it is. I believe it is.
Probably so. I would be surprised if there wasn't one, actually, because it's just such a powerful and universal concept,
Right.
But it's interesting that that came up, because that is how I view what you just touched on. And it's actually based off of another painting series that like I said, I'm really into science, because I find that it's just such a phenomenon based way of looking at life. Like, it's just the things that happen around us, and science doesn't care about our beliefs or anything like that, but we can find belief in it, And I discovered what happens when neutron stars collide. And it's the highest energy, most powerful experience of all living existence. And when two neutron stars collide out in space, the heaviest metals that have ended up on Earth, hundreds of thousands of light years away from us, neutron stars somewhere collided at years and years ago in space-time, then ended up on our planet the heaviest metals on the periodic table. Anything above copper, the heaviest platinum, pewter, gold, silver, these things that we look at here on Earth and we're like, this is what is beautiful in the material realm. And that's how it ended up here. And we have been able to measure it by 1/100th of one strand of a human hair.
Wow.
That's God. Like, that's magic. Like, those are the same things, and it's what has built everything around us and us. It's part of us. And to me, the way that those three stages of that collision behaves are so similar to the mind, body, spirit connection. And it happens in three stages. It happens as an in spiral, where these two neutron stars are circling around each other. Bye, Bill. It was so good to see you. So good to see you. Yes, they're circling around each other, and they're gaining and gaining and gaining. And the second stage is the merger, where they explode. And then the third stage is the ring down, when all of those tiny little waves that are measurable 1/100th of a human hair make their way throughout Earth, or throughout space-time, and end up here on Earth and all other places in space. And to me, it's just so clearly the great I am story. And I just find that interesting that you had brought it up in that way, because it's immediately what I had thought of, It's a beautiful thing. Really.
It really is. It really is. And when people don't realize, they say, well, there is no God. Well, how can you explain everything? I mean, they try to explain it with science. Yeah, I can see some things, but we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be able to have these conversations. We wouldn't be able to think of hope if it wasn't without him, because he gives us that hope. He gives us that hope that we can make it through the day. He's
Yeah,
he's
it's
given he's given me that hope that I can make it. That yeah, it's gonna be a rough day, and yeah, I'm gonna have hard days, but hey, it's life. I mean, life's not easy. Life's a journey, and
mhm.
I'll just make it one day at a time.
Yeah, and and it's complex, and I think
It's
that,
very yeah.
and we're not going to be able to understand it, and so I
Mhm.
think that in part, being able to surrender to the idea that there are things that are unfathomable to us, and that there is a higher energy than just being human, is something that's not ego driven at all, and it lies completely in genuine love. And sometimes people, I think, aren't capable of, or they don't feel that they are capable of opening themselves up to those kinds of ideas. And whenever someone says very bluntly, like, I have this conversation with my brother all the time, which I believe has everything to do with why I'm interested in the marriage of religion and science, because he studied religion in college and he also studied astrophysics. And so those are two completely different fields of studying, right?
Yeah.
Astrophysics, religion, totally different ideas of what you might study in college. But he studied both of them, and now he is a lawyer. So he makes this argument that he's like a savant kind of person.
Oh, okay.
But he makes an argument that it's ridiculous to make a claim such as there is no God, because it's a very faith-based statement.
Mhm.
So what's the point of having faith that there is nothing good in life? If you think
Yeah.
about it like that, it's like one faith-based statement opens up the possibility and says that and he said, agnosticism in his eyes and in my eyes does make sense. It's the statement that I don't know, so I'm not going to make a claim. If I can't know for sure, then I'm not
Yeah.
going to say, then yeah. And it's like that. I'm like, okay. But saying something along the lines of like, there is no God and everything is just for nothing. It's like you really don't have any proof of a statement like that. So
Right. Yeah.
to hold on to faith that there is nothing higher than just us is kind of silly, because we don't have the ability to prove it in the end anyway.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Something you said made me think about. Me and my wife are involved. When I talked about counseling, me and my wife are involved in Celebrate Recovery, and it's a Christ Center recovery group. And I'm still like I'm on a lifetime maintenance plan, still working on my sexual addiction issues, the pornography, the mental health issues. And at the end of each meeting, um, we we um, we quote the Serenity Prayer, and
Mhm.
I think that is just it's really I need to make a copy and put it at my desk, because there's days, and I'll just read it. It says, "God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking as He did this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that He will make all things right if I surrender to His will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with Him forever in the next." I mean, that's helped me get through so many times of my
Absolutely.
day. Just to think, just and this, that second part, just living one day at a time, just
Yeah.
taking one moment at a time, taking this day how it comes.
Yeah, and to find gratitude in the life that we are living and to realize that it's finite. and
It is.
we can have a level of appreciation for it,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I agree. I'm glad that I love that you recite that to yourself and to with each other, because it is such an important reminder. And yeah, I mean, addiction in general is something that's extremely difficult
It,
to cope with. It hurts our relationships, it hurts our relationship with ourselves, and it takes a huge amount of strength to navigate through life dealing with. And it's dealing, not having dealt with.
oh,
It's always
yes. Like I've been involved in recovery for 7 years now, and I've met people that some people stay involved 6 months to a year or sometimes less, and they think they're good. They're good and they're recovered. No, there's it's recovery. It's not a like some people may feel that way. For me, I'm on a lifetime maintenance plan.
yeah.
I'm gonna be working on this till the day I die
Mhm.
because there's some days I'm good, and then other days if I'm stressed out or if I'm just I don't know, if I'm just not in a good headspace,
Yeah.
then the slightest uh, in ways sometimes the stupidest thing I'll see on TV will trigger me, and I think when I really realized one day when was I had been working on it for so long, and I was getting to a good place. I was watching something on TV. We were watching TV. I literally turned my head and told my wife, I was like, "Oh, I shouldn't look at that." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I just did that without having without her saying, 'Hey, you need to turn your head,' or 'Hey, you don't
Yeah.
need to see that.'" And I'm like, "Wow, I just did that on my own."
Recognized your own
I
need
did.
in the moment, and you just took the immediate action.
I
Yeah.
did, yeah. And there's days where I mean, it's not the greatest, but hey, I know today's today. I'll have a whole new day tomorrow. I can start over tomorrow if I need to, or I can start a clean slate tomorrow.
Yeah.
So,
That's interesting. That's a great message. I'm curious, what would you tell yourself at 25? Or if that's what would you say? I have a friend who was just having this conversation, and she gets asked, what does she do to like limit her cravings, that
mhm.
might be, you could take your choice of either one of those, because I
Right,
don't.
yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, and I've kind of thought about that. I when I look back at where I'm at now, I I don't I know it's going to sound so strange, and I've heard people say what I don't regret what I did.
Would you? No, I don't think that's
I don't regret what I
it's
did.
my story.
I've learned so much about myself
Yeah.
that what I would tell 25-year-old self in my podcast, and we can touch on that if you want to. My
Yeah.
podcast is um I don't know if I can find the statement I wrote because I wrote a statement the other day to somebody, and oh my gosh, it was perfect. I would tell any 25-year-old or anybody that is at that point in life where they feel like, okay, they don't want to do what they want to do. They want to go off and do their own thing. Don't forget you have a voice, and
Yes.
don't and don't forget the forest for the trees, because most of the time everybody in that picture that we talked about earlier was in my life the whole time that I literally did that.
Mhm.
And I if I would have just kept talking to them, and if I would have stayed close to them, Yeah, I may have done some stupid stuff. I may have done some crazy things, but don't forget the people that are sitting right in front of you. Don't forget your family. If you can't talk to your parents, if your parents aren't the safest place, there's somebody in
Yeah.
your life. There's somebody that you're in connection with that's willing to talk to you. Talk to somebody.
Even if it's someone for the first time, I'm willing to talk to you in this moment.
Yeah,
Sometimes we have to for it a little bit, but
yeah.
there's someone always there. Yeah, that's like I'd written something down as a reminder to myself that I had heard, and it's something along the lines of, what are the pathways I am tending to now?
Yeah,
And sometimes
that's
I get
good.
ahead of myself. I look at like what's next, where do I need to go next and stuff. And that's whenever it can feel like everything is just forest. But then you pay attention to the trees that are in my physical space, and I'm
Mhm,
like, oh, it's not just a whole forest. If I take it tree by tree, I can actually
mhm.
enjoy my time here.
Right. Yeah.
That's kind of along those same lines of what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, what about cravings? I can tell you, my friend Marina said, first and foremost, she doesn't do the things that she wants to do, and that's the biggest. And I thought, you know what? That's so simply beautiful. And then the next thing she said was, I pray. And then the next
Mhm,
thing she said was, just like little things, like she might read a book, or she might go for a walk, or she might listen to a song and get herself starting dancing, and just like things like that kind of like help ground. But
yeah.
yeah, if the first and foremost things that it's opposite action to the craving.
Yep.
It's not, if I want to drink, I don't drink. If I want to smoke, I don't smoke. Like, that was her answer. And I thought, that's just so simple but so beautiful.
Yep. And for me, if I'm watching TV and it's something that I shouldn't be watching, I'll literally turn the TV off. Or if I'm talking to someone, or if I'm at work, I'm like, okay, let's go over here. Or if I feel myself getting
Mm,
getting into a heated situation, I'm like, okay, listen, can we stop this for a few minutes? Let me go cool down, and then let's come back. Let's revisit this
yeah.
in a few minutes. And that's helped me. Or like you said, if I'm home alone, I'll pick up a book and I'll read,
Mhm.
or I'll work on my podcast, or I'll jump on LinkedIn, because there's always
Amazing people.
there's
Mhm.
so many people on LinkedIn. I'm meeting so many people on LinkedIn that I can reach out to, that is really
Part
is
of your recovery.
it really is. They have literally brought me to the point now. Gabriel Lil and Made for Scratch Broadcast. He was kind of like I kind of termed him the godfather of for me on LinkedIn, because he's the one that got me started. He's the one that gave me the okay.
Give you
Let's
permission to go for it.
Yep. He
It's from what it sounds like.
it really was. He did it. I was on his show back in March of last year, and he kind of got me started on this, started going, and then I jumped on Russ Johns. I've talked to Brian Schulman. I've talked to Jason Leibowitz. All these great people that have that I can reach out to and just say, "Hey, today's not a great day," and they're always encouraging me. And I'm meeting so many great people that I'm like, how did all this even start?
Mhm.
How did all this come around to where I'm at now, and then starting my podcast. And I had to I have I haven't yet. It may be tomorrow when I get a chance to do it. But I've got so many people that are wanting to be on my podcast that I'm going to have to shut my calendar down for a little bit and be like, okay,
Mhm.
I've got to reevaluate my calendar. I've got to reevaluate everything, because I want to give people the opportunity to come on,
Yeah, of course.
and I need to find the balance
Right.
of how do I do this, and how can I still bring great content to my podcast.
Absolutely. And you know what that does? That actually leads me to something that I think unless you have anything else you want to say that we could end with, because it actually brings together so much to me.
Yeah.
Every year, well, not every year. Last year, I started the year by thinking of a one-word intention. I said every year because I'm going to do it every year for the rest of my life because it changed everything for me. And then I also focused one-word intention for each month. And so the overall year, though, last year, I decided was wholeness, because I went into the year realizing that I felt like a broken person. I felt broken inside, like I didn't feel whole, and I recognized it, and that made me really sad, and I knew I didn't want to feel that way, and I knew I didn't always feel that way, so I could go back to something more complete, you know. And I spent all of last year, and by around about halfway through, or maybe even before that, a third of the way through, I was like, I'm whole. Like, I'm okay. I have to work toward it, but I'm whole.
I understand that.
Yeah. And so I worked more and more and more, and I see it now so clearly that I don't question that, I question other things maybe, and I'm still working on that. But that one I've got under my belt. And this year, my one word intention for myself is balance. Balance. Yeah. And it's so many of the things that we've talked about at the same time, because balance is everything in a state of equilibrium, everything in moderation, everything, nothing, not taking anything too far, and but not depriving myself of the things that are healthy for me, recognizing the balance and where that line is, and pouring myself into all of my efforts, but not letting them get the best of me and run my my projects run me, and so balance, I think, is a great way of looking at it. And one other thing that I'll say too that has helped me, and I think might help you, especially if you're going through it right now, just try to fall in love with your whole life story.
Oh, I am. I mean, every time I share it, and I haven't released the episode yet on my podcast because I've just been recording so many. I've got to release it. I actually I had the tables turned on me. Gosh, about a week ago, maybe. Laura Cobb came on my podcast and interviewed me on my own podcast.
That's cool.
And when we were talking, she asked some things that I like. When I got done, a couple times while we were talking, I almost broke down and started crying, because I'm like, you're asking some things that I've never really thought of before, and I'm so, like what we've talked about tonight, hope, vulnerability. I'm so blessed. I'm so I'm like you said, I'm in a really good place. That as of last year, at the last, well, what was it, last summer? Yeah, July of last year, me and my wife, through this whole pandemic, which is really crazy, we were able to buy a house. We got our puppy. We were able to, my car didn't blow up, but I had to get rid of it because it's just too expensive to fix. We were able to buy a new car, and it's like, how did, every time we think about it, it's like everything we've done, everything we've been through, it's all because we have hope. We have the hope that we can do it. We have the hope that we can make it. We'll make it through the day. And you've got to have somebody beside you that can help you through it. If you don't have somebody to help you through it, then it's gonna be hard to get through it. You can still do it, but at least having somebody you can talk to, or having somebody that you can reach out to, makes it so much easier.
So much easier. And I think that we are able to realize and really genuinely appreciate the people around us that help us do it when we become that person for ourselves.
Oh yeah. You've
And
got to be centered in your own self
yeah,
before you can do it. And I've said it before. I said it to somebody else. It's kind of like the story of being in an airplane and the oxygen mask come down. If you don't, you
yeah.
got to put the oxygen mask on yourself,
Mm-hmm.
on your
You can't
own.
save anyone if you're dead.
No,
Just kidding.
you
Yeah,
gotta do it yourself before you can help anybody else. So you've got to help yourself first. You've got to take the time to get the help in your own for your own self, and then you can start reaching out and doing LinkedIn lives like this, or having a podcast, or being able to reach somebody else because you know you've been there. You know
yeah,
what they're going through. You're like, listen, I know it's hard. I know it's not fun, but I've been there. I can help you.
absolutely. I know I've been there. I've been
Oh,
there.
I've been there.
And I
I've
was
been
there
there.
trying to do all of these things and it wasn't working. And I was feeling upset about myself because it
Mhm.
wasn't working. And then I realized the reason why I'm feeling upset about myself is because I'm upset about myself. The reason why it's
Hmm.
not working is because I'm upset about myself. So I need
Yeah.
to figure that out. And then suddenly, very slowly, I should say,
All right.
very slowly and then all at once, I'm okay and I'm able to navigate through these things. And it is that falling in love with the whole journey and just being gracious
Yeah.
and finding that balance in it.
Yep.
I love that.
Exactly.
Well, I wish you the best of luck and know
Thank you.
that I'm another person that you can turn
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
on the harder days. And
Yeah. I found so many people that it's this journey I'm on with the LinkedIn Live, or with LinkedIn in general, and even I don't know how many people have got on Clubhouse or know about Clubhouse. I found, gosh, I found some great people in Clubhouse that
I'm looking into it. I haven't actually yet, but I've
it,
heard
it,
that it's good. I'm always a person to check those things out once I
it's interesting because there'll be sometimes you'll get into a conversation, like I got into one last night that you're like, wow. It's like everybody I've seen on LinkedIn, we all kind of landed in rooms together, and it's like,
right.
oh my gosh, this is cool that I'm able to hear more of their stories, or more open, and bring more hope to people
I love that.
on a whole different.
I have to check it out because I'm all about that.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for coming
Huh,
on and talking with
thank
me.
you.
I hope you
Yeah,
have a great evening and all of that.
yeah. I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'll go spend time with my wife and spend time with my puppy. I start hearing her. Hear my wife starting, my puppy starting to go crazy. So
Oh, you got to take her on a walk, or not your mom, not your wife, the
yeah,
dog. But you
yeah.
got to take the puppy on a
I'm
walk.
gonna go play with her and give her some
Mhm.
attention. So.
That sounds